All right, so we just got started on our live stream, and we'll wait for a couple minutes, see who comes on in. All right, hey Robin. Um, yeah, so we're just gonna get started in a few minutes. Hey guys, it's nice to see some of my students starting to log on. That's awesome. Um, so like, if you guys saw the Instagram post earlier, we're gonna be making some chicken parm today. We'll see how it goes. I haven't made chicken parm in a long time, and the last time I did, it didn't turn out so good. Hopefully, I think I'm a better cook now, so I think this will go a little bit better. I do want to give a shout out to a couple of different students who sent me recipes this week. Carlos sent me some recipes. Julio and William both gave me ideas about fried chicken, and that's kind of where I'm taking today's recipe, because as much as fried chicken is delicious, during this whole coronavirus situation, I feel like it's still really important for us to be focusing on health, right? We're not being able to exercise as much. And so doing something that's a little bit more of a baked chicken parm as opposed to a fried chicken, you're still going to get the really nice juicy chicken, but it's a little bit healthier. So hopefully this is something that you guys might be able to make at home. All right, so now that we've got at least a couple of people in here, I hope you guys are doing great, by the way. It's been crazy time here at home, but everybody's hanging in there, I hope. So let's take a look then at what we're going to be cooking with today. All right. Okay, so obviously we've got our chicken over here, and I'll show you how we're going to prepare that. We're going to need this canola oil so that we can help prepare a baking spread. We got some cheddar cheese. I should have bought mozzarella. I didn't. So, just roll with me on this one. We got some black pepper because we're going to need that obviously for our chicken. Some salt. You always want to use some salt when you're cooking. A little marinara sauce. An egg, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Parmesan cheese here. And then your breadcrumbs. So to start off this recipe, you need to make sure that your oven is preheated to 450, which you can see right there. And for preheating, I don't have a very new oven. It doesn't, sometimes maybe you guys are lucky you have an oven that'll actually tell you once it's preheated. Sometimes there's a little light that will go on or off depending on your oven. Mine doesn't do that, so I always make sure that I'm turning my oven on 10 or 15 minutes before I actually want to cook something, just so I can make sure. Hi, Dad. My dad's watching this, guys. So just make sure that your oven is preheated and it's ready to go. Okay, so let's go over and take a look at our recipe, because when we're baking, especially we're putting something in the oven, we don't get a chance to change that and fix it around like you do if it's on the stove. So you got to be careful. So we've got our chicken, our breadcrumbs, the cheese, butter or an egg, and I'll tell you why I'm using an egg in just a minute. So we've preheated our oven to 450, and we're going to make sure that we spray the baking sheet with some spray. If you guys will just hold on a second. Just give me one moment. Put this down. I'm still working out the logistics, guys, of the best way to get everything videotaped here. If that's okay. So you're just gonna want to spray this on. You can use something else that you have at home. It's basically just to make the chicken not stick to the pan. You don't want to make that mistake. So again, once more before we get into our chicken, I'm going to be showing the chicken, guys. If you're a vegetarian, maybe don't watch for a minute. So when we cut a chicken for this sort of a dish, I've already done one. I cut it in half lengthwise. So I took a thicker piece and I made it thinner. And I'll show you guys how I do that in a minute. You can skip this step if you buy a thin sliced chicken breast at the store, which sometimes they have, and that really just skips this step. The reason you don't want very thick chicken for a dish like this is that if you bake it, if it's too thick, it needs to bake longer. And if it bakes for too long, then it gets really, really dry. So you don't want to do that. All right, so let's get going here. Let me flip that back around, get you set up. Okay. So what we're going to do with our second piece of chicken, to make sure that we do this right, is, again, if you're not comfortable using a knife, definitely don't do this. And if you are going to do it, please make sure that an adult or your folks are home. Anytime you're using knives in a kitchen, you have to be really careful. So you put your hand over the top, and you just slowly work the knife through. And it starts to open sort of like a book. Let me show you guys that with my clean hand really quick. So you can see that it's sort of opened up like a book here. There's a lot of other fancy dishes that you can make with that. Where you can sort of like, you could put cheese or bacon or something inside of your chicken and then, bring that back, or put it back together and then bake it like that, which is really good. Definitely not a healthy meal. We're not making that today. All right, so and make sure that, you're ready to wash your hands if you're gonna be touching other stuff around your chicken. So we're gonna grab one bowl really quick. Let me get the other one over here too. And what we're gonna do is obviously wash our hands. And what we gotta do is make sure that we're putting together our breadcrumbs and our Parmesan cheese, because that's gonna sort of be the coating. But if I were just to stick the chicken on the Parmesan cheese, or in the Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs, it wouldn't stick. So what you got, that's why we have our egg. And what we're gonna do with the egg, you're gonna knock it on the side of your bowl, open that up. Here it goes in. Okay, the nice thing about that is you'll just grab a fork and you whisk it. So what I'm doing is, I don't know if you guys can see really well, but I'm just spinning my fork around the egg so that it looks a little bit creamier. You sort of break that up so it all mixes together nice. And what I'm gonna do then is get my breadcrumbs, which is a little over, we'll do say half a cup of these. All right, put the breadcrumbs in. And then a quarter cup of the Parmesan cheese. So we'll get a quarter cup of the cheese. Mix that all together. You're definitely gonna wanna mix it before you do anything else, okay? All right, so now you can see we've got our Parmesan and breadcrumbs mixed together. Gonna add a little bit of pepper and salt to our chicken before we do anything else. Make sure it's seasoned a little bit. Just a little bit. You don't want to go too heavy on the salt or the pepper. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your chicken. You're just going to put it in the bowl that has your egg yolks. Okay? So now you can see the eggs on it. And then I'm just going to put it inside with the mixture of the breadcrumbs and the cheese. And now suddenly you've got yourself a breaded chicken cutlet. Plop that right here. And we'll just repeat for our other pieces of chicken. So this is a nice dish because the preparation is actually really, really easy. It doesn't take a lot of time as long as you feel confident with cutting up your food and getting your ingredients together. Here we go. We'll place another one on right here. 2 more to do. So these are going to bake in the oven for about 25 minutes. And once they're done baking, that's when I'm going to take them out and I'll put the marinara sauce on there and a little bit of the, in this case, cheddar cheese, which it really should be mozzarella, but that's all right. And put those on top of the chicken and then let it bake just for a few more minutes, like 4 or 5 more minutes, just to get that cheese to melt a little bit. Brings out a little bit of that final flavor of letting the sauce sort of get around with the chicken and letting those flavors mix in the oven, in the oven just for a little bit. All right, so now that we've got our chicken all nice and laid out, let me wash my hands before I do anything else. There we go. Washing your hands, especially now, is super important with COVID-19, but if you're touching raw meat, then you always need to be washing your hands. Nobody wants to get food poisoning, right, guys? All right, here we go. So let's take a little look and see what our chicken is going to look like before we put it in the oven. All right, here we go. So you can see now that the chicken is... There's a couple of spots on it where I could probably add a little bit more. So that's what I'm just going to go in and do here. Add a little bit of my extra breadcrumbs. Make sure that we're covering as much of it as we can. Because once that raw chicken has touched the breadcrumbs, you can't really use these for anything else. You might as well use all that you've got. There we go. And just dump the rest on. Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to open up our oven, take our pan, or take the baking sheet, stick that right in, walk over to our trusty kitchen timer, and we're going to go for 25 minutes. Okay, and guys, that's it. That's all you need to do to make chicken parm. Now, like I said, this is going to cook in the oven for about 25 minutes, like we have in the timer. I'll check it, make sure that it's cooked through, and then I'll add a little bit of my extra cheese, cheddar, should be mozzarella, I know, and then a little bit of the marinara sauce. Now, I think some of you guys know this. I really like spicy food, so let me show you some of the spice options that you could have. If you're into that sort of thing. A lot of people like sriracha, and what you can do is with the marinara sauce, just add a couple of drops of this. If you're going to do something that's more an actual hot sauce, like one of these with habaneros, here you'd put all the marinara sauce into a bowl, and then you would add maybe 2 dashes of this and mix it all up, and then put that spread that out over all your pieces of chicken. When you're eating something like chicken parm, you don't want to get smacked with spice on your first bite. But sometimes by the end of a meal, it's nice to have a little bit of that extra heat in your mouth by the end of it. You can also accomplish that with something like red pepper flakes if you're not that interested in having hot sauce, which I know a lot of people aren't, and that's totally okay. Yeah, so are there any questions that you guys have as you're thinking about... Oh, sorry, the one other thing I wanted to mention is egg versus butter. Sometimes if you're making something that's baked, butter's definitely adding a little bit of fat, but so is your egg. And I think that the egg makes it taste a little bit lighter than the butter. The butter can get kind of heavy, and it adds this little extra fat that kind of makes it taste like a heavier dish is really the best way I can describe it. So by doing the egg instead, it's still a rich flavor, but I don't know, at least personally, I don't feel like it overpowers the chicken as much. So thank you, Robin. Yeah, absolutely. I love this response. Green beans or broccoli would go really well with this. A salad is going to go really well with this. You could definitely do something a little bit more fun, like baked sweet potatoes, which are also really easy and probably something that I should try with you guys. Let's see, what else would I put this with? Some sort of, beans are obviously really good. You could do green peas, any just sort of roasted veggies. Like if you chop up some green peppers, some onions, maybe some broccoli or some potatoes, throw that in the oven for 40 minutes. You can even do that while you're baking your chicken, and you'd have a fantastic meal right there. Nada, thanks for joining. We made chicken parm today. So I can actually show you real quick if you just joined. It's going right there in the oven, and very soon we'll do that else. Robin, yes, you absolutely can add extra spices to the crumbs. I got a breadcrumbs. It's an Italian blend, so there's other ingredients in there, like they've got a little bit of oregano, there's a little bit of thyme, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder. So it does add a little bit of extra flavor. But if you go to the store and you just get the super plain breadcrumbs or the panko crumbs, anything that you want in your spice cabinet would work. You could put some basil on. You could put something else like paprika would even work really nicely in the sauce, perhaps. Oregano is always a classic when you're talking chicken or any sort of Italian food. And yes, leftovers on a sub roll would also be fantastic. So yeah, unless there's any other questions, I'm going to head out, guys. I'll definitely update you in about, say, 21 minutes when our chicken comes out of the oven. I'll take some pictures and post those on the Instagram so you guys can see how it went. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today, and we'll definitely keep doing these tomorrow. Make sure you guys are looking for Mr. Spencer, who's going to be doing a workout video. I think we've got a couple other things coming later this week. And yeah, we'll keep going. We'll be setting out journal buddies and calling a lot of you guys because we got some questions we need to ask about the end of the year. So all you seniors, make sure you're looking out for some phone calls from us to talk about sweatshirts and stuff for the end of the year. Send us your photos for the yearbook for any of you guys who haven't done so yet. And yeah, have an awesome day. See you guys soon.